What's up, Faith Nation? Juan Garcia, social media correspondent here. And guess what? Sarah Huckabee Sanders is joining us, and you get to ask the questions. What am I gonna ask? I wanna know how she gets ready in the morning. Is it a glass of raw eggs, or is it Red Bull and her Fruit Loops? One thing's for sure, she has the toughest job in DC. Also, our Jennifer Wishon is bringing an exclusive story from the White House. A spiritual awakening is taking place, and not that many people know about it. So do me a favor, do your friends a favor, share this post, and right down here in the comments, leave some comments, some questions for me, and I'll be able to read those out to our host. Faith Nation starts right now.
All right, another Faith Nation Wednesday. Hi guys, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, hey, it's going to be a fun time. Fun time. And I love Wednesdays, Faith Nation. I was up early on Fox and Friends. I got a huge morning.
What time did you wake up?
I woke up at 4:30 in the morning. I had nothing. I don't even know what I was discussing this morning. All I know is that I was just thinking, what's for breakfast? And that's all I really cared about, just so you know. But we have a big show today.
We do.
Yeah.
First on the list, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders.
You're kidding me. She's joining us now?
Yep.
From the White House. Look, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. Hey, here's some breaking news for you. I'm not going to ask you about Russia right off the top. What do you think of that?
I like it. We're off to a good start already.
Yeah, okay, great. So you'll stay, obviously. The economy, the stock market, it's up big time, or huge, as this president would like to say. I know Dan Pfeiffer the other day said, thanks, Obama, that the president should be saying thanks, Obama. That was a bit of a swipe. What's the sense there?
Look, the economy is at a great position. The stock market's at an all-time high. Unemployment's the lowest it's been in 16 years. And a lot of that is due to the president creating consumer confidence again. He's giving companies confidence again to build, to grow. And he's gotten rid of so many regulations. I think they're up to like over 800 deregulations that have taken place over the first 6 months that he's taken office. It's a huge deal. It's really created the type of economy that he campaigned on, that he promised on, and now he's delivering on.
Hey, I have to ask you, we just got some news, I guess, this morning that the president did indeed sign the Russian sanctions bill. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
He did. He signed that just within the last hour, as we put out a statement earlier this weekend letting everyone know that he had planned to sign that. It went through a legal review, and we have been very clear since the beginning that this administration is going to be tough on Russia, tough on North Korea, tough on Iran, and certainly wanted to be supportive of those sanctions, but also wanted to do so properly. And we had a full legal review of that bill before he signed it, and there's a signing statement that is part of that that will be out here shortly.
And Sarah, on the topic of the mainstream media, a lot of Americans think that the fix is in for this president when it comes to a lot of journalists. Do you agree? Do you think a lot of these guys are out to get him?
You know, I've never seen the level of hostility that we have with today's mainstream media. I've been in politics a long time, and even a pretty hostile media when my dad first took office in Arkansas, but it pales in comparison to the day in, day out attacks that are taking place on this president. I think in large part some of them are still upset that he won, but mostly I think they're upset that they were wrong. These were a lot of people that said Donald Trump had no chance to be president. They talked about it day in, day out on TV shows, and now they're having to eat their words pretty publicly, and I think that's a big part of one of the reasons they dislike this president, is because he proved them wrong once again, just like he's done every day since he took office just over 6 months ago.
Well, Sarah, we're getting a lot of love for you on Facebook. We have one question. This comes from Sylvia Sanchez. She writes, how does she stay calm when the media is attacking her with the repeated questions? Stay strong. You're doing a great job. What would you say to her?
I think for me it's real simple, and I know people have heard me talk about this before, but I'm a mom of 3 preschoolers. They're 5, 3.5, and 2. So one, I'm used to multitasking. 2, I'm used to answering the same question over and over and over again, and I'm used to the answer not always going over well, and a lot of crying and screaming after those answers come out. So it can sometimes, I think being a mom has perfectly prepared me to deal with the press corps day in, day out.
Yeah, kids running around at home with ketchup on the wall, right? Right, I gotcha.
Question.
Yeah,
Why?
absolutely,
Why?
something like that.
Yeah, along those lines. Hey, look, let me ask you, this week, it wasn't really reported too much, but David Friedman obviously was there talking to the president as it relates to the embassy in Jerusalem and a lot of other things, the Temple Mount crisis, and Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt all involved. Can you give us a little sense of what that meeting was like? Do you have any, if not details, just the flavor of what that meeting was like? Because our folks here are obviously very important in Israel. Israel's big.
Right, so this was a meeting that actually been planned for a while, but it obviously I think took on a greater significance. There's a lot of progress being made. Jason Greenblatt, as you mentioned, Ambassador Friedman, Jared have taken a very active role in being part of the process in the Middle East and trying to de-escalate things there. And they're having some gradual success, and we're going to continue working on that. It's a big priority for the administration and certainly for those individuals. And I think it shows what a priority it is for this administration by the people that the president's chosen to take on and lead that effort.
John F. Kelly. He is the general in charge. Well, we know who the real chief of the staff is. That would be the president. But the chief of staff, John F. Kelly, tell me a little bit about what he means to this White House and specifically what skill set he brings that you think will be beneficial there.
This is a guy who is a probably if you put leader in the dictionary, you would see his picture next to it. I mean, he's incredibly successful in the military. He's been, I think, somebody who's taken on some really big challenges in the military at Department of Homeland Security and been very successful. He's managed large teams. And this is, I think, something that he was born to do. He has stepped in on the first couple days and I think really taken charge, set a great tone across the White House, and we're all really excited to be here and work with him and promote the president's agenda.
And Sarah, you know, like David said, the president is the real chief of staff, the big kahuna, of course, but as you know, he likes to go rogue sometimes. He's kind of a maverick, especially when it comes to Twitter. Being the press secretary, how do you manage that?
Look, I think the president's Twitter account is, and all of his social media platforms, he now has over 110 million people on social media that he can connect with in a matter of seconds. You mentioned the hostile media. I think that his ability to speak directly to the American people is always a plus. And, you know, some days maybe it's a little more challenging for the rest of us, but if this was easy, everybody would do it. And this is a president who loves to talk directly to the American people. It's one of the reasons I think he was elected, because he has that ability to reach out directly through those social media platforms. I think that's a positive and something that we should certainly elevate and let him have fun with from time to time.
You know, I know your father well. I think you know him pretty well too, I would think. He's your father.
I hope so,
yeah, I hope so. Any certain lessons from your dad here? Because boy, this is politics, it's communications, it's bless your heart on certain days. How do you? What kind of advice has he given, or at least lessons that you can pick up from him?
I think the most important thing that he's told me, whether it's this job or anything else in life, is to be yourself. Be honest and be who you are. Don't try to be someone different. Don't let the job change you. And, you know, I think that's always been, and hopefully my approach to everything I do, not just whether it's here in the White House, but anything before and beyond this, is to be myself, be true to myself, and certainly be faithful to God, and in that process be open and speak out about those things as well.
Sarah, speaking of God, we know that you're outspoken about your faith. You don't back away from it. What role does it play in your life?
I mean, I think if anybody of authentic faith, it has to be the primary thing that drives everything that you do. You know, some people want to say you can separate your faith from your work. I feel very much the opposite of that. I think your faith defines who you are, and I'm certainly not going to shy away from that. That's a big part of who I am, and something I'm more than happy to talk about openly and answer, you know, any question about it. The only challenge is sometimes, you know, making sure that it's the right platform and the right location and environment in which to do that in the appropriate place.
Very nice. Sarah Huckabee, always a pleasure, though. I've got to tell you before we let you go, I got a quick little lightning round. You're going to like this, believe me. Don't worry. There's no buzzers.
Believe you. All right, David.
We'll
see.
We have a bottle of turtle wax after this for
There's
you.
There's no wrong answer, right?
There's no wrong. All right.
Okay.
So what was your, some folks, what was your first job? Do you remember your first job? Kind of?
Yeah, so I guess my first job, I actually worked for a general contractor, and I was really close. He had a huge company. I came in, I was supposed to file stuff for him and help him out. I thought that was boring, so I ended up going out on the construction sites with him. I would do the walks, and I absolutely loved it, and it was something different than probably anything I'd ever done before or would ever do again.
Oh, I love it. That's so great. Okay, Sarah, morning person or night owl?
It kind of depends on the day. My kids are early risers, and so I've kind of been forced to become a morning person. Also working in the press, that starts pretty early in the morning. So as long as I have a big cup of coffee, I can get on board pretty quickly with the morning and don't mind.
Which is the next question. What do you eat for breakfast? Is it coffee and I'm out the door, or is there oatmeal? What's going on there?
Usually coffee, maybe a protein bar driving into the office, or oatmeal once I get here, something like that.
Texting or phone calls?
Definitely a texter. I'm not. If I can text it or email it, I will usually always do that over a phone call.
Twitter or Instagram?
Lately, I guess probably more Twitter than Instagram. I keep it pretty separate. My Twitter is work-related. My Instagram is more personal. So nice. I guess it depends on what I'm doing that day.
And finally, Sarah, one word that best describes who you are.
That's hard.
Geez, that's a little bit harder. Maybe you guys could answer that question better than I could. I would like it to be just maybe easygoing. I don't know if that's the best word.
It's hyphenated. It's hyphenated.
So. I like it. It works.
I may have to come. Let me think on that one. I'll come back on the next interview. You can ask that one again. I'll have a better answer for you.
Well, I'll tell you this. Upfront and amiable for sure. A couple words that come to mind. Sarah, we really appreciate your time. Thanks for playing along with us. We will send the turtle wax to you at some point. What's the address? Is it 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue?
I think that's right. I think so.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders. She's a great sport.
Great sport to play along with the lightning round, Jenna. No, she's great. We've known Sarah for a very long time. And look, she's salt of the earth. I mean, you know, what you see is what you get. She was kind of grasping at straws there in terms of what word to use.
That's a tough question.
It's a tough question, but look, we ask tough questions here on Faith Nation, so don't play around.
What did you think, though? I thought we got a lot of insight about just her personal life. It was really interesting.
Yeah, and she admits that, like, when you have 3 kids under the age of 6, you know, the press corps is nothing. There's no doubt about that. I also thought was interesting how she kind of, and this is typical Sarah in a good way. I mean, she likes to kind of take little digs there with a smile. It's kind of fun, where she talked about basically comparing the press corps to having 3 children. So being a mom prepares her very well, which I thought was pretty appropriate.
And answering the same questions over and over again.
Yeah. So interesting.
All right. Well, what are all of you saying? We'd love to hear you, hear your thoughts. Please weigh in, and let's go ahead and send it on over to Juan at the social seat. Hey, Juan.
Ooh. Hey, breaking news, Jenna and Brody. Our followers love Sarah. I mean, I've never seen so many emojis in my lifetime. We got a couple of good ones. Actually, this one right here from Amy says, I thank God for her and for her dignity, decency, class, and professionalism, including her wardrobe. Hey. She represents the president and us ladies well. 2 snaps. Brody, what do you think of that? And you know what? Before you weigh in, someone actually said that she should start campaigning and run for president. Do you think Sarah Huckabee Sanders has what it takes to be the president of the United States someday?
Well, thanks, Juan, for putting me on the spot with that question. I just like the fact that he said 2 snaps, Jenna.
2 snaps.
Yeah, that was nice. Oh, hey.
There you
Snap,
go.
crackle, pop. Look, she has a...
she's sharp.
She's sharp, and she has a background in politics. Let's remember this. I mean, she ran political campaigns before, so she didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday, and so what she's doing, though, she learned very well from her father.
Yeah. She's
able to kind of do it with a smile and a bless-your-heart attitude. God bless her here on Faith Nation. So.
God bless her.
By the way, way, what we didn't tell her is that you know Sean Spicer was on the show, and then 2 days later Sean was gone. So yeah, so we didn't tell her that.
We'll wish Sarah the best. All the best to Sarah.
Good luck, Sarah.
All right. Well, did you know this?
I didn't know.
There is a cabinet Bible study happening here in Washington, D.C. That's right. Donald Trump's people within his administration are holding a weekly Bible study, if you can believe that. It's a story that's picked up a lot of traction on our website, cbnnews.com, and Jennifer Wishon has the details.
It's been called the most evangelical cabinet in history. Men and women who don't mince words when it comes to where they stand on God and the Bible.
These are godly individuals that God has risen to a position of prominence in our culture.
All handpicked by President Donald Trump and Vice President Mike Pence.
I don't think Donald Trump's figured out that he chained himself to the Apostle Paul.
Ralph Drollinger is a former NBA-playing giant of a man with an even bigger calling. He founded Capitol Ministries with the idea that if you change the hearts of lawmakers, then their Christian worldview will guide them to make good policies. He's started Bible studies in 40 state capitals, teaches weekly studies in the U.S. House and Senate, and now leads about a dozen members of President Trump's cabinet in weekly studies of the Bible. Health Secretary Tom Price, Energy Secretary Rick Perry, Education Secretary Betsy DeVos, and CIA Director Mike Pompeo are just a few of the regulars.
It's the best Bible study I've ever taught in my life. They are so teachable, they're so noble, they're so learned.
Has this been done before in a cabinet
I don't
formally?
think there's been a cabinet Bible study in America in at least 100 years.
America's top cop, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, also attends.
Like Jeff Sessions, he'll go out the same day I teach him something and I'll see him do it on camera. And I just think, man, these guys are faithful, available, and teachable, and they're at Bible study every week they're in town.
President Trump is invited to attend the Bible studies too. Each week he receives a copy of Drollinger's teachings, and when he can, Vice President Mike Pence will join the study. In Pence, Drollinger sees similarities to Joseph, Mordecai, and Daniel from the Bible, all men who rose to the number 2 position in governments at different times in history.
Mike Pence has respect for the office. He dresses right, like it says Joseph, you know, cleaned himself up before he went to stand before the Pharaoh. Mike Pence has uncompromising biblical tenacity, and yet a loving tone about him that's not just a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And then fourthly, he brings real value to the head of the nation.
Like others, Drollinger often compares President Trump to biblical strongman Samson.
I just praise God for them, and I praise God for Mike Pence, who I think, with Donald Trump, chose great people to lead our nation.
All right. Well, look there, Jennifer Wishon with us right out of the piece. Jennifer from the Shenandoah Valley Bureau. That is impressive.
I have a much better gig than you guys today. Isn't this beautiful?
This is great. Can you please do this live shot on horseback? We'd appreciate that.
Just beautiful. My goodness.
Tell us how this all got started, Jennifer. What a great piece.
Well, thank you. You know, CIA Director Mike Pompeo, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, Health Secretary Tom Price, they were all part of Ralph Drollinger's Bible studies in the House and Senate before they joined the cabinet. So once they joined the cabinet, and then we saw this really parade of one evangelical Christian after another joining Trump's team, Drollinger saw a perfect opportunity to expand his ministry into the executive branch. And so that's kind of how it got started. And it wasn't long before Vice President Mike Pence signed on as a sponsor. He's a sponsor of the Bible study, even though his schedule has not allowed him to attend yet. So that's how it all got started.
Jennifer, what kind of lessons are these cabinet members learning?
Well, right now, the cabinet is studying the Sermon on the Mount. And the way they do this is Drollinger takes them through the Bible book by book, scripture through scripture, during their weekly meetings. And then he also sends them a supplemental sermon that he writes on a variety of topics. I've seen them on separation of church and state, how to manage, what does the Bible say about managing your personal finances, strengthening your marriage, being a good parent. These are all things that folks in these high stress positions who are oftentimes away from their families, really helps them supplement their spiritual life. And of course, President Donald Trump also receives a copy of those sermons each week as well.
You know, Jennifer, we are very socially interactive here, as you know.
Yes.
It is Faith Nation. And so we have a video question from a Faith Nation viewer, which, look, we don't play around. We're in all different formats. And here is a video question for you. Here it is.
Great.
What's up, Faith Nation? My name is Isaac, and I'm from Philly. I thought it was a very interesting story about Bible studies in the White House. How come other outlets don't cover that kind of stuff?
How come some other outlets don't cover that stuff?
The answer is, we're leading the way on this. We broke this story at CBN News, and since we broke the story, we've seen a lot of other outlets showing interest. Fox News has picked this up, the Drudge Report, Politico. I understand that after our report aired on the 700 Club, we had the Capitol Ministries folks had requests from 4 different reporters at the Washington Post. The Huffington Post is interested in PR. So we're leading the way on this. And this is, just another or a perfect example of the news that is coming out of this White House that's important to Christians. And we have a front row seat. And so that's why we should be your source for political news in Washington, right here on Faith Nation.
Right here on Faith Nation.
Nice
Jennifer,
plug.
we have to ask, is this indicative of the tone, the environment that the president is establishing at the White House?
I really think it is, Jenna. I mean, I think it's a symbol of the kind of open door policy that this White House has towards evangelical Christians. I mean, we see them sitting around the table in policy discussions at the White House weekly. We bump into them in the halls of the West Wing, meeting one-on-one with Trump's top advisors. And it really shows that this White House is inviting Christians in a way that, frankly, they've never been invited before under any other administration. It's really remarkable.
Well, Jennifer, always a pleasure to not just see you, but see you out there in the Shenandoah Valley.
Soaking up the sun rays.
What's the latest on the
So
Waltons,
nice.
by the way? Any latest on the Walton family out there in Shenandoah? I mean, sorry, I don't mean to date myself, but you know what I'm saying.
Well, the Waltons, they're another mountain over, but they're tucked in and they're snug today. But listen, I got to go check on the cows. So.
That's right. Jennifer Wishon with the tough duty today. Jennifer, thanks so much.
Thanks, Jennifer.
See you guys.
So interesting, fascinating.
Well, what was fascinating is
Great
that she's
piece.
going to check on the cows, and I am curious how that's going to go down. And Shoshana, do we have our producer? Can we get video of that?
She says she's on it.
She
says she's on
That's
it.
great, phenomenal.
All right. Well, I think we tossed to Juan next. Hey, Juan, what's going on?
Let's look at the rundown.
What's up? What's up? I just want to remind you guys that you guys can always send your thoughts, your requests, your questions to faithnation@cbn.org, and I will read those comments. And just like Isaac sent his video, your voice could also be heard on Faith Nation. But in other news, I went out to the White House to hear what people thought of the press and the administration and the beef that's going on. So the question was, who's unfair to the other, the press or the administration? And this is what the people said. I want to know, have you ever seen a press briefing on television?
No.
I have not.
Yeah, I'm interested in that kind of stuff, so yeah, I like to watch that.
Not live, but I've probably seen clips from one, yeah.
I have.
Do you think we should have press briefings on camera every day?
I think depending on the subject.
Every day. On camera, absolutely.
Now, do you think the press is more unfair to the administration, or the administration is more unfair to the press?
A little bit of both. It's a little bit of both, because sometimes they do the wrong thing, and then sometimes the administration does the wrong thing.
Well, I think, though, that the president has really been unfair to the press.
That can go both ways. Sometimes they're unfair to him, and sometimes he's unfair to the press.
There's a lot more gamesmanship that goes into the dealings in the press room than ever has gone on before, where it used to just be a Q&A and a banter. Now it has become a little bit more targeted, a little bit more direct, and mean-spirited.
There's a little unfairness going on both sides, so, you know, I think you gotta respect the press and respect the administration, I think.
I think the administration thinks that the press is the enemy, and in fact, in my opinion, the press is an integral part of our way of governing.
I think I can see it both ways.
Probably the administration to the I mean, the press has the right to ask whatever they want and to do whatever, so it's free speech either way.
You heard that? She says, I have the right to do whatever, right?
I mean, unless it's endangering anyone.
Right, I'm not going to endanger anyone, but yeah.
I kind of like how Juan was looking, I don't want to say glowingly at the White House, because that would give a whole different impression.
Yeah.
But I like that last shot. I can do whatever, yeah, I can do whatever I want. I don't know, whatever.
That's a scary thought.
It is a scary thought.
It's a scary thought.
Good interest, good insight.
What do you guys think? Please weigh in. We want to know what you think. And then in the meantime, send it back over to Juan. Hey, Juan.
Hey, the comments are still rolling in. This one here is from Nigel, who says, yes, the Trump administration is limiting the press because the press is biased and have been out to get them since day one. And another one from Lorna, who says, depends on who the press are. Some are honest, some are looking for dirt. David and Jenna, what I found interesting is that a lot of people haven't even seen a White House press briefing, and somehow they formed an opinion.
Yeah, and you know what, Juan, it's interesting. I think Loma, I believe is her name, is onto something, Jenna. You know, there are some that are looking for dirt. There are some that are more honest than others, and you really have to be a smart consumer when it comes to, you know, where you're getting your information from. So, you know, I think that's a big part of it.
Speaking of press briefings, I believe this next piece is about kind of the history.
It is. You know, we have Amber C. Strong, who's on the show all the time, and she is looking at, she has this piece, as you know, this segment called Fake or Fact, and let's figure this out. Were these daily on-air press conferences that we see at the White House, were they, have they been around, like, forever? Like, was George Washington holding these things?
I don't know.
I'm not thinking George Washington was, but anyhow, she has more in Fake or Fact.
Hey friends, Amber C. Strong here at the White House. So lately there has been a lot of talk about the daily White House press briefing. Move over, Price is Right. The new afternoon must-see TV takes place right here at the White House.
Maybe we should turn the cameras on, Sean. Why don't we turn the cameras on?
An audible gasp went through the streets of D.C. as the White House announced that it would be cutting back on the on-camera briefings. Which got us thinking, fake or fact? Has the White House press briefing always been a daily occurrence? For answers, let's take a look at history with White House Correspondents Association board member Todd Gilman.
So the White House Correspondents Association, which represents reporters who cover the president at the White House, started in 1914. It was about a year after Woodrow Wilson became the first president to begin holding formal press conferences.
Wilson reportedly grew tired of those press conferences due to, quote, irrelevant questions from reporters.
I would say the tone was friendly.
And while JFK was the first to hold a live TV press conference, the concept of a daily live televised briefing didn't begin until the Clinton administration.
Coming next, you'll hear from George Stephanopoulos, the White House Communications Director.
But they put a stop to them pretty quickly.
The briefing is more an opportunity to exchange ideas and to have a conversation about what's happening. That wasn't really happening in a way that as productively as we'd hoped.
Former Clinton writer and journalist Seth Maskett says he remembers those early days.
It was a little chaotic. I think it was a fairly new approach. Reporters didn't know necessarily how to cover it. The people who were actually providing these briefings were, for the most part, had just come off a successful presidential campaign and were trying to transition.
Gilman, who has covered 3 different presidents, says the briefings seem to vary with each administration.
The Obama administration briefings under Josh Earnest and Robert Gibbs and Jay Carney tended to go pretty long. There was a lot of filibustering on both sides. There were a lot of very long-winded questions with a lot of follow-ups. Sean Spicer's briefings were much quicker. He really believed in the lightning round kind of thing where he bounced around the room. Sarah Huckabee Sanders also believes in the lightning round. There's a huge trade-off and frustration though because they don't necessarily get to all of the important questions and they have at times skipped over some of the mainstream established major media. Not always, but sometimes, and they have played favorites with some of the more conservative media.
And while each press secretary has a different approach, he says reporters come to the room with varying missions as well.
There have always been frustrations in the briefing room and tensions between print reporters, radio reporters, TV reporters. We each want something a little bit different. Print reporters tend to want information. TV reporters tend to want a juicy exchange.
Across party lines, there's been no shortage of juicy exchanges over the years. A former George W. Bush staffer recalled to CBN News many heated exchanges between the press and the press secretary. Then there's this exchange between Sam Donaldson and President Reagan.
You have blamed mistakes of the past, and you blame the Congress. Does any of the blame belong to you?
Yes, because for many years I was a Democrat.
Or this one between President Obama's press secretary Jay Carney and ABC's Jonathan Karl.
We are all stuck in the same queue because they all have to go through the same portal.
John, I get it, but the person who calls isn't the one who continues to wait after the paper application is filled.
Right? Your mocking is entertaining, but
But back to the question at hand. Has the press briefing always been a daily occurrence? Well, no, that would be fake. But when it comes to modern times and the idea of an on-camera briefing, Gilman says the association is not demanding daily on-camera briefings, but when it gets down to once or twice a week, that's a problem. So there you have it, just a little fun fact for you, David. In researching this story, we found out that Franklin Delano Roosevelt held 1,000 press conferences during his time in office. Now, he was in office a little longer than the rest of them, but 1,000 is a lot to be covering. Fun facts here on Faith Nation. I'm going to send it back to you and Jenna in the studio.
Amber C. Strong. Really interesting, actually, Jenna. And, you know, I think it goes to this idea of, look, should the cameras be on or not and all of that. I know there's been a lot of talk. You know, fine, let the cameras go on. But what would be interesting, Jenna, if you decided to have it as a head-on shot, in other words, just of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and you took away the cut shots. What we mean by the cut shots are the shots that are the reverse angle of looking at the anchors.
Yeah.
I wonder if the television folks at that point, the television reporters, would have a problem with that. Why don't you have the cut shots of me as well? That would be interesting.
They wouldn't get to grandstand like they do. They don't get the attention.
I'm just saying, Jenna. You're just saying.
saying.
So press briefings, an interesting topic.
Well, at these press briefings, it seems like Russia is a reoccurring topic day in and day out. And the president, he's calling this whole probe a witch hunt. Well, I spoke with one highly respected journalist, Sharyl Attkisson, and she says the president may be onto something. Here's a clip from our interview. President Trump says that this Russian probe is a political witch hunt. You have James Comey, who admitted to leaking documents to spur on this special counsel, and then the special counsel is Robert Mueller, who's one of his friends, and then Robert Mueller goes and hires friends of the Clintons. Is President Trump onto something? Is this a political witch hunt?
To the extent it's been blown out of what I think is the proportion of all reason, the Russia investigation and the idea of collusion with Russia, yes, he is onto something. President Trump is correct when he says that this is a witch hunt in some respect, based on the evidence to date and based on President Obama's own intel experts, who not only didn't see any evidence of collusion between Donald Trump and the Russians by their own account, but also by the account of all public information, Democrats and Republicans alike, who haven't seen the connection, and yet you've seen it dominate the news narrative. I call it like the Brady Bunch, Marsha, Marsha, Marsha. You just hear Russia, Russia, Russia all the time. And there have been wildly incorrect reports from some formerly top, well-respected news outlets in the nation about all of this. And in some cases, they haven't even corrected or done mea culpas when what they reported has been found to be false. It's not that the Russia question doesn't deserve some investigation, but the coverage for it is so wildly disproportionate to the evidence at large.
You know, Jenna, that's a big deal, that interview
Yeah.
that you did with her, because she's not just a respected reporter who used to work for CBS and the mainstream networks and all of that. She's a respected investigative reporter.
Exactly.
That has some serious chops. She didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday. So for Sharyl Attkisson to say that and basically, confirming that what Donald Trump says, that this is a political witch hunt against him, she's saying, hold on, she's saying, yes.
Yes.
I mean, she is. She wasn't really hedging it much.
No.
And that's pretty powerful.
She's a sharp lady, and
She
we
is.
also, in this interview, we talked about her new book that she has coming out. It's called The Smear: How Shady Political Operatives and Fake News Control What You See, What You Think, and How You Vote. I think a lot of you would probably really like this book. Very fascinating. Again, that's Sharyl Attkisson, and great interview. All right. That brings us to the part of the show where we get your take, the Brody File Takeaway.
Wow.
Take it away.
Take it away on the Brody File Takeaway. Look, should I look over here? This would be somewhat intimate. Can
there
we take
you go.
this? No, you want to take this
okay,
camera?
no, they're directing
yeah, I'm
you
not
back
a big fan
here.
of the profile camera anyhow. Hey, look. There is a phrase, Jenna, and everyone out there, that you're going to hear now in the next 24 to 48 hours a lot. Ready for the phrase? Merit-based immigration. We haven't talked about it much, but it just happened today, this morning. The president with 2 Republican lawmakers announcing what they want to see. They want to see a new immigration system in this country that basically, and I'm paraphrasing here, but this is the bottom line. Remember how you would have legal immigration and you would try to get some of the family members over from Ecuador, somewhere in South America? Hold on for a second. Merit-based immigration, what Donald Trump wants is to say, we got to look at other factors. Do you speak English? What's your education? X, Y, and Z. There are a lot of different factors. I've got them here. Education levels, job skills. So that is going to be the determining factor, not if you're just related to someone over here. Now we're talking about legal immigration here. That's a big deal. So the Brody File takeaway is get ready, learn what merit-based immigration is, because Donald Trump, once again, you know, go bold or go home. He's not going home. He's going bold.
He's going bold.
Yeah.
All right.
That's a slogan. I don't know what that is.
I liked it. I like it.
I'm going to trademark it.
Well, let's see what people are saying now. Here's Juan, one more time. Hey, Juan.
Hey, well, here at CBN, we aim to report with truth and from a Christian perspective, and you can always get that at our website at cbnnews.com. Back over to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Juan.
Thank you so much.
Bear with us here.
2 snaps for that.
2 snaps.
Oh, that's my thing.
All right. Well, I think Juan pretty much covered our bases.
Yeah, you pretty much did. Juan always saving us. And that is a nice look, by the way, for you, Juan.
Very
Just real
nice,
quick.
Juan.
I don't know what kind of palette that is, but is it a fall thing going on with the tie? That's nice.
He's so ahead of fashion
Yeah.
forward.
Well,
Fashion forward.
Good for you.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you so much for joining us this Wednesday. We, of course, will be right back here next Wednesday, and we hope you'll join us.
See you, folks.